And I do want to turn the podium over to Shawn. He's a friend. He was actually my boss at one point, and he has twins right now. So if there's anybody that can explain to you balancing law and life, I actually think that he is much more equipped to do so than I am. So I'll turn this over to you, Shawn. Thank you very much. And thanks very much, guys.
Hey everybody, how you doing? So Milo talked about a lot of sort of personal strategies in terms of how to balance things better in your life and in your career and here in law school now. And what I thought I'd try to do is distill that and talk about how it might be applicable to a career path, in perhaps mine in particular, or others that I've seen. And I think as opposed to Milo, I think I followed a little bit more of a traditional path in terms of going right from law school to a law firm and kind of working my way through that experience. And sort of during that pursuit, I've found things I've liked and maybe not liked so much, and I thought I'd share those with you, and then talk about this elusive concept of work-life balance and what that means in the legal industry, which can, let's be real, be kind of unforgiving. And how I've seen that play out for women that I've worked with, because I think it's something that's particularly of interest to women and talked about in the organizations that women are a part of in the legal industry. But it's also really important for men, and I don't think that men really grasp in the legal industry how important work-life balance should be for them as well. So Milo talked a lot about balancing competing priorities, and we all have a lot going on at any given time, whether we're in law school or as undergrads or in the workforce. We've got family, we've got work, we've got friends and hobbies, and within each of those areas you've got different competing priorities. At work at any given time I may have a motion that I need to argue, or a brief I may need to write, or a trial that's coming up and an expert I need to retain, and my head is spinning and I'm not quite sure sort of how to order that list. And you could work in an environment where you have people that are supportive and help you order that list, or you could work in an environment where you're kind of on your own in terms of how to set those priorities. So learning how to do that, I think, is a matter of trial and error. I think Milo made a lot of good points in terms of giving yourself some space, the headspace to figure out how to approach your work, how to approach your life, how to make sure that you're getting time and space that you need for yourself. On my way down here today, I was talking to a friend who works at Lowenstein Sandler, which is one of the largest law firms in New Jersey, and it was noon and she hadn't left her apartment yet. And I'm like, I've been in my office since 8 o'clock, what are you doing? And I mean, she was probably working until 3 o'clock in the morning the day before. And a lot of times in this profession, I think you got to kind of take it where you can get it, and find the time and make sure that you're capitalizing on it, and do the best you can, as Milo said, not to be kind of dragged around by the anxieties of, oh my goodness, should I be doing more? Did I write that brief perfectly? Did I turn over every last stone in that legal research? We're all going to make mistakes all the time, and nothing's ever going to be perfect, and all we can do is the best we can, and look to our supervisors and our colleagues to help us fill in the gaps where we're not so sure how to meet the needs of a particular task. One of the things that I thought would be particularly important to talk about today would be identifying career opportunities. Particularly, I think the market right now is, I think, got a lot of people scared. I graduated in 2009. I had a job lined up. I went the traditional path. I did the resume submissions, and I did the OCI interviews, and I did the callback interviews at the big law firms, and got offers, and ended up working at Latham & Watkins in New York and in New Jersey. The very traditional route that you would do that. Those opportunities are less now. They were dwindling when I was in law school, and in my last year of law school, it's when the economic crisis hit. All these law firms were slashing their offers to the students that already had them. I mean, there was just this sort of cloud hanging over the law school at that time. I think the cloud is lifted and a new reality is kind of set in. You know, I think there's an acknowledgement out there that sort of the economy of old isn't coming back, and we've sort of got to deal with what this new economy is, which means a lot less of what used to be those plentiful plum jobs where you're leaving law school and you're making $160,000 a year as a New York lawyer or $140,000 a year as a Philadelphia lawyer. Those jobs are fewer. And I think coming into law school, we all sort of see those things as the golden ticket. And one of the things I would caution law students about is to think about whether that really is the golden ticket and whether that really is what you want. Does it fit in with all those things that Milo was talking about in terms of what your passions are? How do you find what's going to make you happy in life and allow you the opportunity to meet all those balancing priorities? Because being a lawyer is probably just one of those. Maybe you have a hobby that you're passionate about. Maybe you love to play the guitar or organize concerts or travel abroad, whatever it may be. Or maybe you're very philanthropic in nature and you're interested in doing some work in the public interest sector as well. So just sort of going that sort of, I would say, prepackaged route may not be for you, and you should think about what it is that you like. Because here's what happens if you just sort of follow the checklist. You go through law school, you're fortunate enough that the test scores, as arbitrary as they may sometimes seem, fall in your favor, and your GPA is high enough, and you get a job that may be plum in a way. A lot of times, what happens in the private sector law firms is that you, as a new attorney, are going to be assigned to whatever it is they have for you to do. So it could be that you work for you end up working at an amazing firm, Archer and Griner, who has ExxonMobil as a big major client of theirs. And so you end up at a firm like that, you're doing a certain kind of work because they have it available. Let's say it's leases, it's real estate. And that's what they have for you to do, so that's what you do. And 3-5 years later, you're a corporate real estate lawyer. Is that what you wanted? And my advice is to law students is to always think about that first, before you're actually applying for the jobs, before you're, oh wow, I got the interview at this place and I'm really excited. A lot of these law firms, they do very similar things. They may have similar practice areas, but again, you're going to get what they have. So one of the things you have to do, no matter where you are, whether it's in a government sector, in the private sector, in the NGO sector, is to fight for the work that you want to do so that you can pursue what your passions are. And law school is a great place to figure that out. I knew in law school, having great professors, that I wanted to be an environmental lawyer. I just knew it. I wasn't sure of everything that meant, but I was interested in regulatory law and in and environmental litigation particularly, and so that's the path that I chose. And so when I went into a big law firm, I was going to fight for being in that position, but that didn't mean they were going to give it to me. It so happened that it was available. But if bankruptcy was available or employment discrimination was available, and that's what they had, that's what I would have been doing, and I'd be an employment discrimination lawyer right now. So the most important piece of advice I think that I could give you in connection with what Milo said is to think about what you're passionate about in the context of a lawyer. People with JDs do lots of different things. They may litigate, they may do transactional work in a law firm setting, but they may not be in a law firm setting at all. They might be in a corporate setting, they might be in an insurance setting. You can do just about anything with a law degree, and it may not actually mean being a practicing lawyer. So to give that a lot of advanced thought, I think, is really important before you go out there and you try to brave the job-seeking world. How many of you all are 1Ls now? Just one. 2? 3 Ls. Okay, so you're probably already going through that process of sending out resumes to clerkships and all that sort of stuff. New Jersey in particular has some sort of a system for dividing up its judges and what judges do what kind of work. For example, New Jersey has has their list of judges that just do environmental work or maybe just do another kind of work. And you should always be thinking about how to be targeting in a job search, not just blindly sending out resumes, because it doesn't work. Or you're going to send out 200-300 and you're lucky if you get 1 or 2 callbacks, half of which say, oh, we're not hiring right now. So to really do advanced research is really important. Just having a big list and doing a mail merge, might have been good in 2007 and resulted in plenty of offers, but in 2012 it's just a different reality. So I think that looking into organizations that do the kind of work you may be interested in, if you're interested in entertainment law, joining not just the student organization that's interested in entertainment law, but the actual professional organizations themselves. They often have student rates, they're often free, and to get their publications, learn about what's happening in the law in those particular areas. It'll better equip you to understand what you could be doing as a lawyer. It'll better equip you for when you're on a job interview. And I think those are some really important things to do. So then, what happens when you actually get there? Right now, fine, you're in law school and it's a schlep. You have lots of reading to do, you have lots of writing to do. Hopefully you spend a lot of time doing the writing because that's the most important thing. LRW is probably a painful class when you're a first year, but nothing will serve you better than becoming a good writer. And people that look at resumes, look at cover letters, they'll know if you're a good writer off the bat, so you should be practicing it all the time and taking every advanced writing class that this school has to offer, because we have fabulous writing professors here. But once you actually get into the legal field and you're practicing, what does that work-life balance really mean? I mean, it's not that much different than what you're doing right now, except you have actual deadlines as opposed to just big tests that await you at the end of the semester. Or maybe you have midterms now or some papers and stuff, but I remember just facing lots and lots of tests at the end of the semester, and you either study at the last minute or you sort of kind of steady as you go, and you were kind of ready at any given time. But in practice, there's going to be tons of competing obligations, but there are also lulls. And how do you take advantage of those lulls? Are you making sure that you're doing my friend did this morning, and the fact that she didn't have anything due for a couple days, and just maybe had an oral argument last week, and so she was kind of reading a book this morning and not going to the office until it was noon. It's a great thing about being a professional. We're most of the time not clock watchers, and you sort of have some freedom depending on where you work to deal with your schedule as you will, so long as you're meeting all your obligations. But it is really important to be a good time manager and learn what that means. And I think you get some idea of that in law school, but it really is, it's a personal thing about being disciplined and regimented. And if you can come up with a plan for yourself and stick to it, it's sort of like, not the diet, but like that long-term thing. Like, are you the kind of person that goes to the gym every day, or make sure you walk 3 times a week, or it's that kind of a thing. How you do your work will necessarily dictate how you do your play, right? If you work hard and you play hard, you're probably just getting tired, like Milo was saying. But if you work moderately but well, you're going to enjoy things more too. And it's really just a matter of taking that calendar and deciding how you're going to spend that time, because there are just we only have the time we have. Life is short, right? You certainly have to enjoy it, but we have all these competing obligations, and being able to, I think, be structured is really, really important if you're going to be a lawyer. I mean, this profession is all about structure. If you take a class about statutory interpretation, I mean, that's the legal world. We're all we're in categories, and we do things at certain times, and there's court rules that dictate when things are done, and you can plan a really beautiful life in and among those things. And some places may be more apt to allow you to do that than others. I worked for one of the largest law firms in the world. We had more than 2,000 lawyers in 30 countries, and ultimately, while it was an amazing training experience, and I got to be on a small team where I went to trial in my first year as a lawyer, which is like ridiculously unheard of, and they usually just stick you in a closet and make you do document review and annoying research that means nothing to no one except a dollar amount on a client's bill. So I got to do some really valuable things because, you know, it just so happened that that's where I was. It was a great training experience being in that huge law firm. But there was this expectation that you were going to, you know, work really hard, 12, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, 7 if necessary. Now every firm has a different culture, and you know every place is different, and I certainly wouldn't disparage it. If you have the energy for it, if you have the appetite for it, if you have the desire for that, by all means go for it. Great experience, great training. The pay is unbelievable, but that's not all there is. I went to school, law school a couple of years later than I think is the traditional path. I was maybe 27 by the time I started, and so I was older by the time I came out and thinking about starting a family, and ended up having twins because the fates just sort of said, here you go. As unplanned as it may be, and as welcome as it was such a surprise, and threw just this wrench into, you know, I'm going to go work for a big law firm and make some money, and maybe I'll jump ship in 5 years. Well, it just didn't work out. And those two things were just not compatible. Having children sucks up a huge amount of your time. For the women in the room, what's really interesting is that most organizations, most law firms have, certainly the government sector, have amazing benefits for working mothers. The firm that I worked for had an option where you could work at a 70% schedule, which really just meant you were working full-time. But you could work at a 70% schedule and then have that time for your family or whatever you needed it for, which was really amazing. They did not offer that to men, which was a problem. I grew up thinking, well, I really want to be an egalitarian parent. I want to share in the child rearing. I don't want to, you know, not see my kids all the time. And so that really didn't work for me. But one thing I think is really important is if young people like yourselves are going into the workplace and you're having an expectation that you're going to be able to do your jobs and do your jobs well, not slack off, not phone it in, but do your jobs well, you should also have the expectation you're going to be able to live your lives and be a father, or be a guitarist, or be a concert organizer, or whatever it is you are in addition to a lawyer. I think you have to carry that expectation with you into the workplace, because you are going to form the next set of policies in whatever organization you work in. So me, myself, I wasn't going to change that 70%, that women were entitled to a 70% schedule, but men weren't. It's great that women are, but men were never told to expect that, or even to want that, right? Society treats child rearing as a female activity. We don't treat it as a male activity, unfortunately. But if that's where your heart is, you can change the way an organization thinks. So I think as young people coming into a profession with those kind of sets of ideals, always think about how you could be changing how that organization operates. And that goes just as much for work-life balance issues as it does for the kind of work you want to be doing. You should be able to go into a place and say, yeah, I'm really passionate about X. Let me do X. As opposed to, well, here you go, you're going to do securities work because that's what we have. So I think what I'll leave you with is just sort of a couple strategies for a successful job hunt, because I know that's the kind of things that are on a lot of people's minds. The first, I think, most important thing is don't be passive. Don't passively send out resumes and cover letters and expect a response. Talk to people. Reach out to lawyers that are in private practice, to government lawyers, to lawyers in non-governmental organizations that may be doing what it is that you want to do. And email them and ask to talk to them. Most of the time, they're going to say yes. Because the truth is, as busy as we all are, people like to help other people. I get tons of emails, our firm gets tons of emails from students that are like, oh, we're interested in environmental law, what could we do? Half those times we've ended up offering those people internships. We don't have a formal program where we solicit resumes. We don't have a formal way that we go in and hire clerks. We rely on those proactive students that are interested in what we do to come talk to us. Because you know what? Those are the people that are interested, that want a career. They don't just want a job. They want to do something they're passionate about. They don't just want to work. My grandfather was always famous for saying, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. He installed water boilers or something like that. So I think it's a little bit more apt to the legal profession. I mean, work is work, and it's going to feel like work. But if you do something you love, it feels that much less onerous. So that's what I have to say. I'll leave a couple of my cards. Anybody ever want to talk about job search stuff? I'm glad to give my 2 cents, and I hope you all do well. Take care.